Hi, everybody. My name is Ali Ahmed. I'm an accountant and a business advisor, and you're listening to the Tooth Fairy podcast. On this podcast, we talk about what really drives profitability inside a dental practice, not just tax, not just turnover, but the moving pieces that affect your bottom line every single day. Because the reality is that profit isn't accidental. Profit is actually designed. And one of the biggest drivers of profit that often gets underestimated is hiring. Who you bring into your practice, how long they stay, and how productive they actually are. And also how they align with your culture. All of that directly impacts your numbers. Today, I am joined by Mustapha Jasim. Mustapha is a dentist himself, an associate, and he's also built a recruitment business focused on helping practice owners find the right talent. He has seen both sides. Mustapha, welcome to the Tooth Fairy podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. Before we dive into profitability and hiring, could you tell me a little bit about your journey? How did you get into the dentistry? What made you branch out into recruitment?
I graduated in 2016 from Barts in London, worked in many different practices, and last summer I decided to start up a recruitment agency. The advantage of being a dentist is you understand practices, dentists' principles more, you understand how they interact with each other.
What would you say is the real cost of hiring the wrong associate or nurse?
The cost of hiring the wrong member of staff in general. The first one is when you hire someone and they're the wrong fit, either because there's differences in personalities or there's a differences in their sort of mindset and values or what they're sort of looking for in a practice. There's a misalignment in what each person wants. They're not going to be happy. The team's not going to be happy, and you're going to get a negative environment, which is going to reduce productivity. It's just going to be more stressful. It's going to increase complacency, and the place is just not going to be nice for everyone. If you're a practice, you've got a UDA target and you need to someone who can do this many UDAs, and someone comes in and they're just not experienced enough to do that. They're not used to that. They're obviously going to underperform, and then the practice is going to run behind. So now they've got an occupied surgery. Someone's working there. They're paying a nurse. They're paying maybe a receptionist, materials. A person is not sort of producing what they wanted. Then the practice loses out. The dentist gets stressed and doesn't know what to do. And then it's just a problem for everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas if you made sure that, okay, this is the practice, this is what they want. Are you suitable for that?
So would you say the activity,
team morale really affects productivity, how people work, really affects the efficiency of your work. If you enjoy your work, you're going to do better work. It's as simple as that. Chances are you're going to stay there for longer. So yeah, definitely productivity is going to be massively affected, and then profitability is going to be massively affected as well.
if a practice hires the wrong associate and then they leave within 6 to 12 months, what, in your opinion, does that do financially to that practice?
The first and most immediate thing is now they've got a spare chair. They had a dentist who was making some revenue for the practice, and now that dentist is gone. By the time they find the new dentist, it could be months. Sometimes it could be over a year. That's basically one source of revenue that's just completely gone. That's going to be a massive blow to the practice.
In your opinion, do most practice owners underestimate the financial impact of recruitment mistakes?
100% yes. A lot of practice owners and practice principals, they're already drowned in work and they already have a lot on their plate. They're not sitting there calculating everything correctly and understanding how much of a difference getting the right person in sooner is going to make to them. Essentially, they're just too busy to keep track on everything about their business. And some of them, they might have not experienced it before, having a dentist who comes in who's got more skills and who can do a variety of treatments that they probably weren't doing before, or no one in their practice was doing, whereas there's a dentist who does do them, and therefore they underestimate how much extra revenue that can bring them.
What would you say is the biggest red flags practice owners ignore when they're hiring?
If they've changed from 3 to 4 practices and it's all because they didn't get along with each one, that's a bit of a red flag. That does sometimes happen. If you didn't get along with one practice, it's understandable. If you didn't get along with multiple, then we have to think what's going on. If they're very demanding on everything, in work times, in work days, and how they want everything to be done, it can be a sign that this might be a difficult person to work with.
Have you seen examples where a strong associate transformed the practice's revenue?
Yes, definitely. You see it a lot where a practice takes on a new associate and doing so much more private work. The practice owner would have never thought that that's possible. Some dentists generally just do have an ability to ethically sell stuff. I'm not going to talk about the ones who are not ethical because that's not really of interest anyway. They can provide different treatments, so, do Invisalign, implants, facial aesthetics, cosmetic work, which wasn't being provided. There was a gap in the practice, which was lost revenue. And then this associate comes in and starts providing all of that, and the revenue shoots up. Or they're just very good at offering, and they're very good at showing the value to the patients, providing those private treatments. Sometimes it's things that most practice principals won't even think of. For example, like treating tooth wear, treating like severe tooth wear. Majority of general dentists are not going to do it. They'll either just sort of leave it or they'd refer it out. And then you get someone who's got like further training in restorative dentistry who's all of a sudden treating a lot of tooth wear cases, and they're bringing in massive revenue to the practice. Things like that's a bit of a less obvious one compared to, the more obvious, like, okay, he does implants or he does Invisalign, or things like that.
What should a practice owner look at financially before considering hiring somebody? I'm talking about UDA targets, chair occupancy, and private conversion rates. So what would you say they should focus on financially before they make that decision?
How much revenue are we losing out by not having this person here? That's the sort of simplest and most obvious thing to look at. If we did have someone here who is doing 5 days a week, 3 days a week, even 1 day a week, how much more would they be bringing in? And they should have at least a rough idea. How much are we missing out on monthly? If you've got capacity for an extra dentist and you're not making use of that, you're losing a lot of revenue and there's more pressure on the rest of the team. Essentially, it's, can I take on another dentist? If the answer is yes, then most likely they should. And whether they want to use a recruiter, again, it goes down to how much am I going to be losing per month? Does this outweigh the recruiter cost? Most of the time, it's going to be yes. If that is the case, and they want to find someone quickly, someone good, or they've been sort of struggling to find someone, or they've already wasted a few months and they still haven't found someone, they might as well just cut their losses and go for it.
Do you think some owners hire too late, meaning they wait until they're overwhelmed instead of strategically hiring?
I definitely think so, yeah. I think it goes back to the fact that they've got a lot on their plate to begin with. They don't take action until they feel the pressure. So until they become desperate, until they really need them, then they start looking. I think that's because they've got so much on their mind.
Now we're going to move on to talk about structuring pay and incentives. From your experience, what pay structures actually motivate an associate properly?
It varies by location and by type of practice. In England, we have the UDA system. You get paid per UDA, and the average UDA rate sort of varies by area. If they're getting if they're getting a reasonable UDA rate relative to their area, that makes sense. So if a practice is offering £12 a UDA, and the average in their area or their city is £14, they're going to struggle to find someone. I mean, no one's going to be happy with that. Private split as well, 50-50 private split. For example, if it's a mixed practice, if they're offering 40%, then they're going to struggle. If it's a fully private practice, then again, the private split, usually it goes between 40 to 50% split, depending on the practice and depending on how full the diaries are. They're going to have a good take home by the end of the month with that split.
Do you see common mistakes in how associates are structured financially? Maybe too high a percentage, unclear lab fee splits, or perhaps not having any targets at all to incentivize them?
Having targets, that could be one thing. And also just the wrong split, really. I think when it comes to dentists, if they're on the wrong split, there's a chance that eventually they're going to leave, or they'll just won't take the job in the first place too.
Sorry, go on.
Some practices, they offer a sliding scale to help incentivize the dentists. If they earn this much, they get this much of a split. If they earn more, they get a higher split, and so on. So it sort of incentivizes them as well, which has its pros and cons, but it's one method which some practices use.
So we're going to move on to talk about recruitment strategy and long-term stability. In today's market, what's the biggest challenge practice owners face in attracting good talent?
There's a lack of talent, especially after Brexit. There's way less dentists. There's, European qualified dentists in the UK. That has created a shortage. Definitely a lot of practices would feel that. If you're in like slightly more remote location, you definitely feel that. Even if there are candidates, a lot of candidates now are becoming more picky. There's a much bigger trend towards private work, and Instagram is one of the big reasons for that. A lot of dentists now, including newly qualified dentists, they want to become high-end cosmetic private dentists from the get-go, and they hardly bother with NHS work. They don't even want to try it out. If you're a mixed practice, you don't have many candidates to begin with, and a lot of the candidates who are around, they don't want to work in your practice. They just want a private practice to start off.
What practical steps can a practice owner take today to become more attractive to high quality associates?
Just make sure your offer is good, staff are happy, make sure your practice is well equipped within reason. You want a good dentist, and good dentists are motivated.
So what would a good offer look like to you?
So in terms of good offer, making sure that the split that you're offering them, so whether it's the private split or the UDA rate. In Scotland, you don't have UDAs. It's just a split on NHS and private. Making sure it's fair and reasonable. That's one thing. But I'd also say making sure your practice is well run, the diaries are full, well equipped within reason. So if you're well equipped, well run, so that the diaries are pretty much full, so the dentist knows, okay, when I start, I'm going to have a good list of patients. I'm not going to be sitting around with gaps in my diary. That is one of the biggest things that attracts dentists. If a dentist can tell that the other staff are happy, that staff have been there for a long time, then that's going to be attractive to them. Those are some of the biggest aspects.
In summary, having a well-run practice, having a full diary, and making sure that your associate has all the kind of equipment and the materials they need to do their job effectively.
Exactly. 100%.
If a principal is listening to this and struggling with recruitment right now, what is the first thing they should fix?
Get in touch with a recruitment agency. They can hit me up. More than happy to help. That's one thing. Other could be staff retention, like why they had that vacancy in the first place. And a lot of the time, that's not going to be in their control. Sometimes dentist just wants to leave because he's relocating or retiring. Can't do nothing about that either. I would say get in touch with a recruitment agency. It can make a massive difference. You can have practices that have been looking for over a year, like actively looking, and they just haven't found anyone.
How do most practices go to market with their roles? Do they just advertise online, or do they go through a recruiter? What's generally the split?
So, it varies. Some practices rely on word and mouth mostly. They'll get recommendations from other dentists who work with them, from other colleagues, from their own network. That's a big thing. Understandable. Advertising on job boards obviously costs a lot of money, and it doesn't always bring you results. Advertising on groups, so it could be WhatsApp groups, could be Facebook groups, it could be Telegram groups, and then using recruiters. Those are the main sort of avenues where practice principals try their luck.
What mistakes do associates make when choosing a practice?
Not asking enough questions, or not asking the right questions to the principal. A lot of the time I tell my associates, when you go in, ask them what you want. Ask them realistically how much, what sort of work you're going to be getting, how full your diary is going to be. If you have a particular interest in something, let's say you want to do a lot of teeth straightening, ask them how much demand there is for that. Ask them to show you the diaries of the other dentists, see how full they are, or see how empty they are, depending. Ask them how much they expect to be taking home per month. The principal can tell you how much some of the other associates, doesn't have to name them. Ask as many questions, don't shy away, find out everything you need to know so that you're sure when you take the job.
What's the biggest myth that practice owners have about dental recruitment?
They'll just send you CV after CV without filtering. A principal might tell you, look, I want this, I want them to have these qualities, and I want them to be able to do these days. They'll set out their criteria. What I do personally, I always have a phone call with a practice principal or the manager, and I find out exactly what they're looking for. That takes a bit of time and effort. Some recruiters, they'll just send CVs over. They might live too far away. They might not be really interested in the job. They might have not even heard about what they're being offered, and they just send the CV anyway.
Do you think you have a slight upper hand given that you actually work in the industry day in, day out?
Yeah, it definitely helps me understand, understand what the principal's needs are, really, and what the dentist's needs are. So I think that helps.
Right, okay. Based on everything you've talked about, one of the biggest takeaways today is recruitment isn't just an operational issue. It impacts so many aspects of building a practice. People inside the practice determine your revenue, your patient retention, and your culture. And if you get hiring wrong, it costs you quite dearly. And if you get it right, it has a compound effect. Thank you very much for sharing your experience from both sides as an associate and somebody who helps principals find talent. If anyone wants to connect with you, Mustapha, what is the best way that they can do that?
If they want to connect with me, they can connect with me on LinkedIn, Mustapha Jasim. That's spelled Mustapha. So it's a PH, not an F. They can connect with me on Facebook, and they can check out my website, molamatch.co.uk. So mola as in back teeth, molamatch.co.uk.
Oh, thank you very much again for joining. As always, if you're a dentist and you're listening to this, understanding your numbers is really important. Paying less tax increases and actually keeping more of what you earn. That's exactly what I'm here to help you do. My name is Alia. I'm an accountant, and thank you for listening to the Tooth Fairy podcast. I will see you in the next episode.